Hello everybody, my name's James, and for the benefit of those listening to the audio, you're listening to Ask James, my regular YouTube live stream where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related. To timestamp this, it's just gone past 12 p.m. UK time on Thursday, September the 11th. As per usual, I'll answer questions in order of submission. Repeat / similar questions may well be skipped, and I'll cover questions up until 1 p.m. Unless the unlikely scenario I get through all the questions before then. No specific announcements from myself, so just happy to get straight into the questions. Harry Baker is first. Says, hi James, question for fan team. Grealish at 6 and Ndiaye at 6.5. Who do you prefer on wildcard for this week? Also, Paquetá versus Richarlison, both for 7 million forwards. Cheers. I'm not well placed to answer that, Harry, purely because I don't know the dynamics of that game. I believe it's quite similar to FPL, but I don't know if there's differences to the scoring in that, right? So I'm not sure that I'm the best person to answer it. But on the face of it, I would say Ndiaye at 0.5 more than Grealish I would pay. More likely to score you goals. I don't know, again, what the relevance on goals and bonuses versus assists in fan team to FPL. I don't know. Paquetá versus Richarlison, be straightforward. That's Paquetá all day long, mate. CM Punk 2310 says, if you have a certain longer transfer path, would you make a suboptimal decision now just so the path is possible? That's a really intriguing question. Feels like it needs more context to it, but I think I understand what you're saying. Let me answer it like this. I'm someone who is very much often looking at the long game in FPL. So if you take someone like me who has a target, and it's only a target, of wildcarding in game week 13, I'm trying to minimize the short-term decisions in my play so that I can access players that I want on my path, like Arsenal and Chelsea players for their fixture swings in, say, 7 and 9 respectively. Might even be attacking Chelsea in 6, for example. So yeah, I would say that factors in my mind. An example might be, I'm probably going to buy Semenyo this week as my replacement for Ismaila Sarr. But the strongest alternative I've considered is Josh King at Fulham, where I could use him very feasibly this week at home to Leeds. I think he starts, but I would say with a few new additions at Fulham like Kevin and Chukwueze, I wouldn't say that's a guarantee, but I would be happy to take that chance, I think, if I bought him in. And that would leave me with 6 million in the bank. Now, then the knock-on impact of that is maybe Haaland, right? For 6, I'm so close to being able to put him in quite easily. I could even go -4 now, right? Watkins to Haaland. I'm going to go Semenyo. And I wonder if that's the sort of thing you're weighing up in your mind, is a decision like that is clearly Semenyo. But if it allows you the path to Haaland, say in this Josh King example, that then means you triple captain Haaland in 6, etc., then that's part of the plan, isn't it? So I would say if you just went now, buy Semenyo or King, Semenyo, right? But if it enables something else further down the line and you don't deem that's worth taking a hit now, as an example, then do it. I think it's fine. It's very difficult to say, right? Because it's the nuance of a plan, right? And what exactly is that plan? He has added saying that, for example, doing Sarr to Paquetá, okay, instead of Semenyo, helps me in my path to wildcard 13. But still, lots could happen between now and then to ruin plans. So, okay, so it's not too dissimilar to what I was saying. Well, let's say with the example of King that I really like is like you use him now and then you just rate for Taka like moving forward for future weeks as an example. You possibly use him in 5 as well. And if you were really struggling, he's still in the team. They've got a couple of good fixtures, sort of game week 10 and 12 before that wild card in 13. But I see the appeal of Paquetá, reference clash to correspondence from yesterday for a bit more chat on that. Jake Hoyer says, hi James, remembered in a previous stream you mentioned you enjoyed wrestling. Do you still watch much of it given the amount of football coverage you do? No, but I'd certainly keep an eye on it. I mean, it's very much kind of more like social media driven in terms of like keeping an eye on what's happening. But am I watching Raw or SmackDown or no? if there's a pay-per-view, obviously we've got Netflix, so it might be, it's probably the time it's normally starting, might be right, wake up on a Sunday morning, was there like one particular match that I wanted to watch and stick it on? But otherwise, no, I don't have the time to be watching 3-hour shows 2 or 3 times a week. No. Allgot says, hi James, been planning to wildcard in 13, but I now have Sarr, Saka, Palmer and Larson as potential issues. Should I take a -8 to get 11 players or just hit the wildcard button? Keep up the great content, thanks. Yeah, come in, man. I've got a special guest. Yes, I'm live on YouTube. Say hello. I don't know who this dickhead is. Now you can see yourself.
Ah, yeah, it was a delay. Adios, ciao.
It's
Portugal.
Such. Are you going now?
Yeah.
All right. Safe travels. Good to see you.
So
Love you lots. Bye, boss. Ciao. What's up? Div show tomorrow. Yeah. Cheers, boss. That's the boss. He's here. He's been here for a couple of days. He's pissing off. He was here for a couple of days and we never recorded together. That's fucking stupid, isn't it? What was your question? Sarr, Saka, Palmer, Larson as potential issues. Depends what those issues are, right? So you might be sitting here this time tomorrow and it's Larson's okay, Palmer's okay, and then you're just sticking with that. Sarr, we haven't got the official prognosis, but it does sound like it's probably going to be pretty bad. What's the impact as well in terms of your bench availability? If you got, say, someone like me this week, say I had all 4 of those players, I'd be looking at this week and going, right, I've got Dewsbury Hall as my kind of first sub. Right, that's fine. Play it. I can deal with that for this week. Next week goes to Liverpool. Less confidence in that. Deal with more then, maybe. So it depends on the prognosis. Saka as well. I mean, if he's back for 5 or 6... I guess it's dependent on the news, isn't it? I'd say priorities probably deal with Sarr. Larson and Palmer have got to be close, haven't they? Got to be. And in which case, if they are, we're not talking about -8 here, are we? I understand why a lot of people are wildcarding at the moment. But I do think, personal opinion, is that I think there are better opportunities later on. So where it can be avoided, I would. Also, see a Punks is playing one of Konsa. Have Dewsbury Hall as a matchup. Goodmanson or Nico Williams. From that, I'd probably go Konsa. I think the start of the season that Everton Villa have had would make you think that Everton are probably good things for this weekend. But I'd have a consciousness of that. I think Villa are a dangerous side. And we've seen a number of occasions already this season where away teams have set up very well and performed very well away from home. So Everton have looked good in their last 2 games, but it was the emotion of the first game at the new stadium against Brighton, and then they played a Wolves side which was not ready for the start of the season. So I would throw caution to that. So I intend to play Konsa this week. Admittedly, my choice is probably more straightforward. Konsa versus Murillo is basically my choice. So I'd play Konsa from that. At 17, says, hi James, we saw Lacroix's 2 DEFCON points being stolen in game week 3 due to an FPL Towers error and missing the cutoff. Should these points be automatically added onto the following game week? No, I mean, I covered this quite near the start of the Game Week Review podcast 11 days ago and stressed that they need to change this rule in for next year to make sure this sort of thing doesn't happen and they keep the game week open for an additional 24 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is that's needed. It's gone and you're not going to retrospectively change it or add the points on at a different point. It's bullshit, frankly. I've spoken about it previously. Julius Knit says, good morning, James. Hope all is well. I'm on free hit looking for a 6.1 million or below midfielder. Currently on Jeremy Pino. If we hear anything from Glasner that he's good to go, any alternatives? The only thing we're good to go is doesn't mean it will necessarily start. That would be the only thing. We've seen him, 10, 15 minutes at Villa, look really good. I know he's a very talented footballer. He essentially is the Eze replacement. It doesn't mean that you go straight in the team necessarily. So I would say avoidable. 6.1 or less on a free hit. Midfielders. Yeah, there's nothing there that stands out massively, I must say. Josh King would be one. Maybe Marcus Tavernier, Bournemouth. But that feels like a difficult game to call. I understand the will to want to go to Palace in that scenario. Probably Rangers home to United. I would probably prefer if you don't already have that. Similarly, I mean, someone's already mentioned Paquetá, 6.1 or below. I don't. He's not higher than 6.1, is he? He can't be. But I wouldn't mind Paquetá on pens, that particular scenario. It's from the Bournemouth Brighton fixture as well. Yakuba Minta, if he's past fit, not a terrible one to have a look at. I'd probably say from that lot underneath 6.1 for just this week, I'd probably say Rangers. I think that feels very comfortable for minutes. City obviously play Sunday and then not till Thursday. I'd feel pretty comfortable with that. Adam says, where do you reckon Ange will finish with Forest this season in the league and Europe? He's going to win it all, won't he? A double, mate. I'll answer the question. I won't extend on it because me and David are going to do quite a bit of a piece on Forest on the weekender tomorrow, on what's happened and what may happen next. What I would say is I'm really intrigued. I hope it goes well for Ange. Don't have any ill wish for him at all. I'm surprised, and I'm surprised they've appointed him, and I'll cover that in more detail tomorrow. I think it could go either way. I think if he tries to radically change his approach to what his philosophy is, I think doing that in the mid-season will probably bomb quite badly. Remember, Tottenham started very well under him, but had a full pre-season. So to implement that when you're playing, midweek games every week for Forest now, moving forward, basically, I don't think that's the right strategy. I think he's going to have to go in and change little bits very, very slowly would be the right philosophy. And let's remind ourselves that Forest isn't broken. And most people they obviously had a bad result against West Ham, but most people walk into a bad job when a team's in a really, really bad situation. I think this was kind of inevitable that it was coming to this conclusion with Nuno, and he inherits a squad that's much stronger than last season. They've got much better strength in depth. With how hard he will probably want to work the players from what we've seen at Tottenham, he's probably going to need that depth, but I think they have it. I would think that the challenge of European football and the Premier League means that Forest would be unlikely to challenge for a European place in the league again this season. I'm aware most models kind of have them finishing sort of 13th or so this year. Some I've seen a little bit lower even. They're capable of better than that. In terms of Europe, very capable of going deep, right? Because there is a deep squad there if it can stay fit. So I think in the Europa League, it's going to be new for the majority of the players, but you've got players in there, some like Milenkovic, and a lot's been made over him this week, who's very experienced in terms of playing European competition. Others less so. But I think that was also the case for many of Tottenham's players, bar a few like sort of Christian Romero last year as well. So I think they're very capable of going quite deep in Europa League. So let me say that I think their Europa League performance will be better than their league performance. I'll leave it at that. Next up is CMP. Hi James, I have one free transfer and I'm considering Milenkovic to Munoz. Plan is to free hit in 6. Should I make this move or roll? I also have Richards if that matters. Not particularly because I stressed out on the pod 11 days ago that I didn't mind if people wanted to go double Palace defence moving forward. The fact that you want to free hit in 6 makes the appeal of Milenkovic way less. Way less when you're taking that Sunderland game out and Palace play Liverpool that week. So generally speaking, I would say if you take someone like me who's got Murillo, my intention is to move that on in game week 7, almost definitely to an Arsenal player. Okay, that works for me. Under your scenario, I'm going to say, yeah, probably I would do it. At 17, says, hi James, do you agree I should start King over Xavi Simons in game week 4? It's really difficult to say whether Simons will play tomorrow. He will certainly play, but whether he'll start. I'll tell you what I would say. I think there was a little giveaway in a video Tottenham posted yesterday in terms of the expectation of him. So Tottenham posted a video yesterday that's on Twitter. It's about 8 minutes long. And it's Simons' first day at training, right? So he's trained from yesterday, full training. So 3 full days of training before a game on Saturday. What I think was very, very clear from the video is where they want to use Simmons. So there's been a little bit of debate if he might sort of play off the left. And what I saw yesterday, I would say central areas as the 10, which is what I think most Tottenham fans, and myself included, are hoping that's where he's going to play. There's a really interesting little anecdote. It's about 3.5 minutes in, where Simmons turns on the ball and you can hear a voice. I think it's Matt Wells, who's one of the coaches at Tottenham. He's shouting, "Be creative. You're free to make the choice. Be creative." So I'm paraphrasing, lines similar to like that. So I think he's going to be allowed to play in a position where he's going to be able to express himself and he's going to be able to take his own ownership of what he does creatively. That's really positive in terms of what that could be as a fantasy asset. What I would say is for most people, it's not a buy now. You might be in a scenario where you're on wildcard and you want to take a punt on him. I'm okay with that, by the way. I don't think, as I said earlier, I don't think King is a certain start either. I think he probably does, but I'd say the probability of King starting is higher than Simmons. But he might just go straight in, you know. He might just go straight in. I think I'd go Simmons, mate. I think I get the appeal of King and the fixture. But I think I probably would go with Simmons. I think so. It's close, that, though. It's a good question. CMP says, do you think João Pedro's minutes will be managed against Brentford? He played twice for Brazil. Chelsea have 3 games this week, and he has an injury history. What do you think? So, I don't quote me on this. I haven't checked, but I want to say he played restricted minutes, though, for Brazil on Tuesday. I know it was at altitude against Bolivia, but it also, it's kind of like a friendly for them. And Chelsea don't play Bayern Munich until Wednesday. And the game is Saturday nights at 8 o'clock kickoff. So that's helpful. Rather than say the 12:30 that Arsenal and Forest have got. So no, I think he'll play. What I would say is he's probably out of the running for me for captaincy just because of that, and therefore I wouldn't put the vice captaincy on that player anyway. I'd more likely put it on someone like Watkins, who even though I think will do worse, be like, okay, I know what I'm going to get in terms of minutes from Ollie Watkins at the weekend. So I'd probably rule him out for captaincy from that perspective. But as an owner, I own him. I expect him to start. Rob Hicks says, hi mate, Ange coming in at Forest and all their signings making me edgy defensively, so looking to move Nico Williams on. Already got Munoz, but looking at double up Lacroix, Gay or Richards. Yeah, said Rob, but I'm absolutely fine with the Palace defensive. What I would say though, Rob, the circumstance of the previous question was very much about a free hit 6. And if you're not doing that, I would look at moving that on to Arsenal in Game Week 7, as I'm intending to do. I can only advise that because that's my plan. Hasselbanki's win says, who is a better player, Anthony Gordon or Antoine Semenyo? I'm going to assume the way you've laced the question, this has nothing to do with fantasy. If it's fantasy, I think it's clear it's Semenyo at the moment. I've done a piece for our advanced tier patrons today on England's performance against Serbia for Talking Tactics. That's going to be out later today. And I focus quite a lot on the position of Declan Rice and also Anthony Gordon. And I speak very highly of Gordon on that piece in terms of his understanding and his positional work. Semenyo has variety is not the right word. More explosiveness, let's say. He's a more powerful player, isn't he? Gordon, ironically, though, might be a little bit more direct. Certainly, let's sell it like this. I don't think Newcastle would look at replacing Anthony Gordon with Antoine Semenyo in the long term. I think if they wanted to buy Antoine Semenyo, they'd be thinking more about the other side of the pitch. I think both players have a level that they can go to that is higher than what they currently are. I think it probably boils down to profile of what you specifically want. I think they're both good players. I would say, well, I'd sell it like this. You said to me tomorrow Tottenham was going to side one of those two players. Personally, with what we've got, I'd probably have a small preference for Semenyo. But maybe that's a psychological, and there'd be no chance of taking Gordon from Newcastle. I'm not suggesting taking Semenyo in January or anything. I'm just saying it's a more realistic deal. So there might be an influence on that. Very close between the two. Both good players. Uros Milicevic says, what are your thoughts on the Wildcard 4 bench boost 5 and 3 hit 6 strategy? Bearing this strategy in mind, which players would you pick for the wildcard? Uros. I might have a little look at this for you on the weekend or tomorrow. FPL Borat says, hi James, need a defender for the next 4 as I'm on wildcard game week 8, thinking a Bournemouth defender as 3 of the next 4 are at home and their away game is Leeds, or should I just play it safe and go for Van der Ven? Sorry, it's Virgil van Dijk, sorry. VVD and VDV's doing my head in now. Either fine. Van der Ven, a little bit more of a rotational risk, ironically. I would say over the next 4, just on the fixtures, slight preference for Tottenham. But the Bournemouth guys had the extra layer of more consistent DEFCON so far with Senesi. So, I mean, if it's just for the 4 weeks, there's not much in it, is there? There's not much in it in terms of the 2 teams in the fixture. Yes, it's 3 home games for Bournemouth, where it's 3 away games for Tottenham, but Tottenham have also got to go to Leeds. Kind of sub in Tottenham playing at Brighton for maybe Bournemouth playing Brighton at home. You're subbing out Tottenham playing away to West Ham versus Newcastle at home. And then Tottenham got Wolves at home and Bournemouth got Fulham at home. It's a flip of a coin now. I think you're asking the Tottenham fan, so I'm going to say to you that I would, for the 4, I'd just about go for Senesi. Actually, I think. Just for the short term, yeah. Sadation, sorry if I mispronounced that, FPL says, hello James, would you do a -4 to sell Palmer and Fulkrug to João Pedro and Semenyo to keep money to move from Watkins to Isak later in game week 7/8? Ranked 240k, did already bench boost 1, free hit 2. Thanks, I know someone else who did that. Ranked similar as well, interesting that. Wouldn't be selling Watkins in 7, mate, that would be 8. And if you want to look at Isak at that point, that's fine. I do think that he'll probably do very well. I would say that's probably the earliest I'd be looking at Alexander Isak, would be kind of around about then, sort of game week 8. And I think it might be one for me that's probably actually maybe not even until 13 specifically. But I would certainly understand the will and the want to look at moving Watkins on once Villa walk into Tottenham, Man City, Liverpool, game weeks 8 to 10. Get that completely. Remember, he's a consistent animal, though. I know most people think he's not doing it at the moment. Yeah, he's consistent, Ollie Watkins. So, yes, it's fine. I think João Pedro will, week to week, have what we've already mentioned, a little bit of doubt about him. Okay, subject to what fixture Chelsea have in and around it. A little bit of doubt in terms of his minutes, but simultaneously, it also looks more secure because of the lapse injury, right? I'm fine with that move, mate. I think it's perfectly reasonable. Subject to the news on Palmer. Like if Palmer's past fit, I wouldn't bother. I would just look at Fulkrug. And I personally, subject to what you want to do, I'd consider Rodrigo Muniz from Fulkrug. Just go 4-5, let it breathe. Take a bit more information on how a few people are developing into their teams. And move it on from there, maybe in 6. Greg says, hi James, start Rangers or King this week? So I kind of heard of one that was asking earlier about 3 hitters. I kind of said Rangers was my one probably for under 6 this week. So I'll have to repeat that and say Rangers, mate. Stiar says, hi mate, hope all is well. Sarr and Wood to Semenyo and Mateta, or Murillo and Sarr to Lacroix and Semenyo. Either moves -4 or just do Sarr up to 7.3, but Kudos, no. Bench Forest guys, like and sub guys. Yeah, I mean, I would prefer that. Bench, that's what I'm doing this week. Bench Murillo, play them 5 and 6, move it on, not take the 4 on that. I'm not a fan of -4. And the Forest guys, your Murillos could well hit Defcons this weekend. It's worth acknowledging as well. I know they haven't yet, but they might this weekend. I don't think Forest is suddenly going to play like wild open attacking football for Arsenal away in game 1 under Ange. So I would prefer just moving Sarr on. Up to 7.3 obviously takes you out. Semenyo, I would genuinely consider what I'd said, come all the way down to King. If you are looking really short term, I don't mind Kudos. Despite what I've said about him, I think you do look at the next 4 and think, if he ticks over a couple of attacking returns, that's okay. And he probably will. He's not going to explode for you, mate. Be very surprised. Sparsh says, free hit advice. Best Liverpool free, Eze or Madueke. Is Watkins a good differential to go for? Thoughts on triple Newcastle defence? I'll cover them in short because I will do a free hit draft on the wildcard tomorrow, and I've not given it any thought yet. But I would say best Liverpool 3 would be in my mind Van Dijk, Ekitiké, Gakpo, Salah. That's 4, sorry. So take out your preference from any one of the other 3. But those, it would be choose from those 4. Madueke over Eze, I think. Watkins, no for this week. Triple Newcastle defence, no. Probably not. I think there's a number of good teams you could look at for defence this week. Arsenal, Newcastle, Palace, Liverpool, Fulham, Joachim Anderson, 4.5. Perfectly reasonable for a free hit this week. So no for me. I do think I haven't looked at it properly. I think I'll probably look at it in the morning. I think Harvey Barnes will be in it for me, but I'll see what I come up with for tomorrow. D.80 says, hi James, a lot of great managers are currently ranked in the millions. Even at this early stage, it feels unprecedented. Is it because of bad luck or has FPL changed? No, it's not unprecedented, mate. We've been here before, trust me. And they'll recover, I'll add as well. So, yeah, variance has not been good. There is a little bit of an element to the fact the game has changed with DEFCONs, but I don't think it's significantly kind of real huge game-changing impacts. It alters the mindset a little bit. I think ultimately a lot of the players that were really popular going into game week 1 have underperformed. Ultimately. And so it's going to lead to that sort of result at the moment. But those great managers will recover and continue to do well. It's no different really to having a bad 3-week spell at the middle of the season. It was just at the beginning this time, mate. The best will rise back towards the top in most scenarios, mate. Luke Stevenson says, hi James, what are your thoughts on Paquetá as an option? Seems like a cheaper Bruno with the multiple routes to points. Fixtures will never look great when he's playing for West Ham though. So, no. There's a goodish little patch. I think sort of 8 to 11. I think is quite nice for West Ham. But you're buying him because of your greater thought process towards consistency. This is about an adjustment of mindset, right? Oh, he's on pens. Oh, he can win DEFCONs. Oh, yeah, he's a cheaper Bruno. I would say the pen thing is fine. You want Nassix, he takes pens. Cheap enough. Yep, he's going to be on them. I think that's pretty clear. It's also clear that he's committed to West Ham. He's obviously staying. I think he's obviously struggled from kind of the mental aspect because of the case obviously in the background. That's as far as I can tell. He's probably free of that in his mind now. The DEFCON thing's interesting. I dropped a line on Clash of Correspondence yesterday on him that I felt he would be quite rangy. Like Bruno Fernandes is probably going to be in sort of the bracket where on average he's probably sort of like 10, 11 DEFCONs. Paquetá, I think, will be more rangy in the sense he'll have a week of 15, then he'll have a week of 5. Feels like he'd be more like that, right? So when he hits it, he'll probably hit it really good. But then I'm not sure if that consistency levels out. Now he's much cheaper than, say, a Bruno, right? I would say before I committed to that, I'd really want to see 2 alternatives in that West Ham team and how they perform. So Matheus Fernandes and Crescencio Somerville are both set 5.5. And I think there's a scenario here by the time we get to game week 8, you might be going, well, I really like Somerville at that price, particularly. So it's not under consideration for me. Harry Trimble says, hey James, planning to transfer Palmer to King if Palmer is injured. Frees up cash to transfer out Gu ahead of bench boost 5. I'm worried about King's minutes going forward. Thoughts, other ideas, thanks. So, I don't think any of us could say with certainty what happens here with Kevin and Chukwueze and what the impact is. I spoke on Monday's podcast about thinking that King will be favoured, I think. And it might be King and Chukwueze either side, but I also relayed on that podcast on Monday that it could very easily be Wilson, Smith Rowe, Iwobi, right? As a different example. So if Semenyo got injured today, it's like, oh shit, Semenyo's out for a while. I'd probably buy him and I'd take a chance on it. So under your circumstance, Harry, I don't mind it. The problem is there's then another week of integrating these players. So we could have a scenario this weekend where Kevin and Chukwueze are substitutes, they're integrated into the squad, they get half hour off the bench, and maybe they're going into the team in game week 5, and then maybe Iwobi moves into a more central area as a different example. I don't think whatever happens, Harry, even if Josh King starts tomorrow, I don't think that worry is going to go away from you for game week 5. So, how far up do you need to go from Go? Like, do you need to go that cheap to King? I would think not, right? So if you're looking at 4-5 specifically, I think we just identified Fulham, there might be a little bit of an issue there, maybe. Within the next couple of weeks, sort of, just trying to think the price break. You obviously want to get up from Go. I think someone like Barnes will come in, but I get that's kind of like a transfer and waiting once Gordon comes back from suspension. Someone mentioned Jeremy Pino earlier. Like if we do get kind of clarity on him, alternative Bournemouth player like a Tavernier, maybe for a couple of weeks. Harvey Elliott. Now that's another one where there's like, oh, does he go straight in or not? That could be a really good little signing. Or actually, under your particular circumstance, like it's 2 home games for West Ham, isn't it? About Paquetá. Genuinely, and you've got way more investment in the next 2 weeks, right? Because the bench boost plays a psychological on you, right? Paquetá might even, it's ironic, I'm just kind of, I poo-pooed it elsewhere, but he might be the right answer for you. Could be. I'd like to go to like a Fulham or a Palace player under your circumstance, but just a few too many question marks for me. It's similar to Harvey Elliott, Villa, Simmons, Tottenham. There's too many question marks there, actually. Minter at Brighton, another one maybe to consider, like I said, if he's past fit. If minutes is your big deal, I wouldn't necessarily completely like rule Enzo Fernandez out of that as a possibility as well. SW6 Uproar, Chris says, Wagwan James. Wagwan Chris. Louis says, hi James. Does it feel weird to have your ex-manager back in the Premier League so soon? Nah. Been here before. It won't feel any weird. It doesn't feel weirder than like Pochettino rocking up at Chelsea, and that was years later, so no, we'd heard in the summer that if Forest made a change that there was potential interest in Ange. So I didn't think they'd do it personally. But after the initial bit's gone, no. Seeing it beyond, he's not even the first Tottenham manager to rock up at Forest, is he? Nuno did. Matthew Archer says, would you rather upgrade Cunha to Salah or Bowen to Haaland? Well, Cunha to Salah because I'm pretty sure Bowen plays this weekend. I don't think Cunha will play. We'll wait and see what the word is, but I don't think he'll play at the Etihad. So that seems a straightforward one to me. The implication of that, of course, is that you may want to be switching Salah to Haaland in 6. It's going to be, unless Salah does bits in the next 2, that's going to be hugely popular, that move. Otter Carrison says, hi James, hello mate. Ramiz says, good afternoon James, what's for lunch? And where do you think Ekitiké fits into the team once Isak gets into the team? I have no idea what's for lunch. I haven't thought about it till you just mentioned it, so thanks for making me hungry. Where does Ekitiké fit into the team? I think I'd reference the discussion we had on Monday's podcast about best 11s. And he's probably not in it. Not immediately. I think he's fine for this weekend, no drama. But once Isak's up, Isak is going to play. And I think Gakpo will have preference on the left. He'll get plenty of good minutes, but I don't think he'll be first choice. Jerry Domergue says, hello Jimbo. With Nuno gone, is Forest defence an immediate sell with Ange's defensive performance with Tottenham, despite playing Burnley and Sunderland afterwards? Kind of covered via other questions, Jerry, so I'm going to skip, but thank you, mate. Eamon Fazeli says, hi James, hope you're well. Who would be your must-haves on a Wildcard 4 bench boost 5 strategy? Again, it's something I'm going to have a little look at tomorrow. Daniel Cullerton says, who was a better player from the age of 17 to 21? Rooney or Owen, in your opinion? I know this has caused an international break. A little bit of, for me, clearly Rooney. Now, I totally get it. Owen, Ballon d'Or winner 2001, when he would have still been, like 21. Surprise winner, in my opinion. It's not to say he didn't deserve it. It was just a surprise winner. Rooney was at his very best, I think, probably there. Arguably, there was then a period came right back around from him, sort of like 2009-10ish at United, felt unplayable as well, from a more even greater goal scoring aspect. Rooney's phenomenon. Michael Owen and his speed and his finishing, outstanding. But Rooney's the best talent that England have produced since Gascoigne. And I think that was the very best that England saw of Wayne Rooney was genuinely in 2004. 18 years of age. And I know Owen, 18 years of age against Argentina, 98 as well. Watch Wayne Rooney's performance against France when England lost. Yeah, they were the best team, France. I know they bummed out to Greece in the quarters, but the strongest team. And the way he was playing was levels. So Wayne Rooney for me. Richard Saunders Irving says, can't decide if a 5 million midfielder can be a viable asset. What can't you decide about it, Richard? So, I've got 5 million midfielder, Dewsbury Hall. Probably don't intend to start him that often, but I know others are talking about doing that. Like, could he be a viable asset? Absolutely. And he might be sitting in a couple of weeks. He might not be the only one at that price, right? So I certainly wouldn't sit there. He's 5. He can't be a good asset. Would you rule him out because he's 6? You probably wouldn't buy him at 6, but would you say he can't be an asset because he's 6? No, I don't think so. So, no, I don't know if that's the exact decision that's going through your mind, Richard. I think Dewsbury Hall at 5 million would be perfectly viable. Otter says, selling Marmoush and Wan-Bissaka with 3.5 million in the bank. Who are the best replacements? I'd be very tempted under that scenario, I think, to go Gabriel now or a Palace player. But I know that I would want to go to an Arsenal player in 7. So I'd be quite tempted to do that now. So, as a consequence, you're downgrading Marmoush, but you're not coming that far down, right? And you're saying you've got money in the banks. I mean, if you don't have Semenyo, that feels like the one to drop down to. 2 million availability still. I mean, arguably, under what you said there, maybe Palmer, if he's past fit, just about make that work, I think. You may well already have Semenyo. Otherwise, it would be other players that I've mentioned on this stream. But yeah, first and foremost, under that scenario, I would be going Palace or Arsenal defensively. Avinash says, João Pedro, Cody Gakpo, Munoz. Who should I captain? I can also bring in Haaland, -4 for Watkins to captain for Game Week 4. What would you do? I'll probably be captain Gakpo this week, Avinash. That's not definitive, deciding on team news, but if I had to lock my team in now, I'd be captain Gakpo. I do have concerns about his minutes this weekend, not in terms of a start, but in terms of could he get replaced 65, 70? Yeah, I think that's a possibility. But yeah, that's probably the one I'll run with. It's a bad week for me, captaincy. By the sounds of it, you may have quite a similar attacking line to me. I've got the 2 attacking players there. I know Munoz has shown up quite well on a few of the models, but I wouldn't captain him. FPL Ishak says, hi James, hope you're well. Got Saar and Frimpong both injury doubts with only 1 free transfer, no bench cover. Do you reckon it's worth risking them starting or transferring either out? So Frimpong returned to training yesterday. Saar, again, it's not official yet, but we expect him to be ruled out. So Saar would be a sell. Frimpong, if you'd held over the 2 weeks that he's been injured, is a hold. But I can't say if he's going to start this weekend or not. I suspect that one of him or Bradley will start. I think it might even be Connor Bradley. And I think that might be an opposition-led decision. Jacob Bessent says, hi James, knowing what you know about Angeball, do you encourage selling Forest defensive assets this week? So, okay. No. I've got Murillo. The intention is to bench him this week. You might not have a good rotation. The intention is to play him with 5 and 6, and the intention is to sell him. Ange Postecoglou being manager not changed that a jot for me. None whatsoever. So I get circumstantial. There's one earlier who was free hitting in 6. I'm like, okay, yep, Totally get it. Totally get it. It's like just holding on for one more away game. It's like, no, okay, fine, sell. So, no, don't. I cannot see for the life of me that Ange is going to go to Arsenal this weekend and suddenly rip up his team. They play Swansea Wednesday. They play Burnley the following weekend. Then they've got Betis on the Wednesday. Then Sunderland on the Saturday. Right, quite where Ange is going to implement his methods into this, I don't know. So I don't think you're going to see anything that's drastically different from Forest in the immediate. So it's business as usual as far as I'm concerned. Let's be honest, we won't keep clean sheets anyway. Sparsh says, which three forwards would you choose for free hit? Gyökeres, Ekitiké, Mateta, Evanilson, Watkins, Richarlison, Visser are the ones I'm considering. So I haven't fully decided, and I will do a free hit draft tomorrow. I can say that Mateta would definitely be one. Definitely. Ekiteke would be a consideration, definitely. It's just that would just come down to which free Liverpool I wanted. So that could even be decided, maybe even by not sure on enough other midfield assets. Fine, I'll go Gakpo, Van Dijk. Evanilson, I'd say probably no. Watkins, I would say no. Richarlison, I would say no. Visser, I would say no. Again, I've seen quite a number of people talking up Visser this week. I don't know how anybody knows that Visser is going to start this week, personally. I think when I free hit tomorrow, the name that you'll see in there is Rodrigo Muniz. Charlie Toast says, hi James, how quickly and aggressively do you think Ange will implement Ange ball? Again, it's covered, but I'll add on to the last bit you're saying, how will this affect assets like Anderson and Wood? So, again, to reference my talking tactics piece today, we might find that Anderson plays the position similarly to how he's played for England. I think he's probably the most suitable player in the squad to play as a single pivot player. And ultimately, that's what Ange will want to get to. Doesn't mean he'll do it, right? Europa League final, Bentancur and Bissouma held hands, played alongside each other, right? If it's going to be one longer term, Anderson maybe is the sixth. Doesn't necessarily make him bad for DEFCONs. It would make him worse from an open play perspective, but there'll be other avenues to points. Wood depends on how well Forest wide players do. Because ultimately, Ange would like a player there, I think, who has good mobility. But ultimately, if the chances are being created for someone in that position, it's not an essential. So it's dependent on the performances of the wide players. You are probably not going to get as much aerial crosses into Wood as what you'd have got previously. I wouldn't see it as a positive for Wood at this stage. But I think the major impact on that will be how well the wide players do or don't do. Rumen Nikolov says, how old are you, James? Don't look a day over 87, do I? I think I'm doing quite well, mate. 41, pal, I think. Checks years. Yeah, that's right. Yvette says, play Anderson of Nottingham Forest or Dewsbury Hall this week, playing Concert in defence. Yeah, I get the kind of all-in strategy on that, but I'd still go Dewsbury Hall, I think. Jazz Jones says, my son is top 20k. I was waiting for him to make first mistake. He's put Simmons in, but knowing his luck, he'll come on for 2 minutes and score a hat-trick. Yeah, I'd take that this weekend, mate. Rich Cole says, hey, James, Richards and Romero or Lacroix and Anderson? Lacroix and Anderson for me, mate. Matt Bryant says, hello, mate. Saw you're going Semenyo for Sarr. With Ange taking over, does this change your view on hitting out Murillo to fund this or just go Josh King for free? No, I've got Murillo, Matt, and as the piece I did on Midweek Dilemma for patrons yesterday, and as I've spoken about in this stream, no, Murillo. I looked at two different paths on that video I did yesterday, and they both end up selling Murillo to Gabriel in 7, so that's the plan and I'm sticking to it. The Swoosh says, hi James, Planet FPL is the best pod out there. If you have to choose a punt for free hit 4, who would you choose between Neto and Madueke? The Highline defensive Ange ball makes me choose the Madueke one. We've got to get away from this narrative, guys. Honestly, we've got to get away from this narrative. Okay, let's just stop and think about this. I've just spoken about the difficulty he's going to have in terms of implementing his methods. When Ange took over at Tottenham, it was clear within 2 minutes of the first friendly, when he'd been training with the guys for like 3 weeks, that this was going to be a very, very different Tottenham. Do you think he's gone there and gone, right, guys, you, could you be 20 yards further up the pitch? Right, I know some people are very questionable of Ange and his methods, but he's not going to go and rip shit up this weekend, mate. If he does, he is mad. I'm not going to put it beyond him, but I'd be very, very surprised. I'd be very surprised if you see anything this weekend that makes you think Forest looks significantly different to what they've already looked. And that Forest is very capable of defending well. The smart thing to do arriving in a midweek before you're about to play Arsenal is literally sitting down with the people there and saying, right, so this works and this doesn't. Right, let's do with the bits that work. And you begin to implement things. Okay? It's not for this week. I certainly would not be making my decision on Ange. The choice would still be Madueke anyway. Homegrown FPL says, hi James, Palmer replacements if he's out, 0 in the bank, 2 free transfers, or could roll as team and rank good. Depends on Maresca, doesn't it? Sorry, bullshit answer, but it's reality. If Maresca gives you an indication that Palmer's going to be available, then you're going to keep him, aren't you? In terms of replacing him, Ismaila Sarr was the one. It's gone. The thing to factor in here, I think, is if you sell him, do you think you'll want him back? And if so, you might want to get back as quickly as 6. So, okay, what's the value of the 2 transfers then? It's got to pop off, isn't it? So you're really attacking the fixtures. And as I said, you kind of want to go like a Palace or Fulham. Don't stand out. So he's probably Liverpool. If you don't have 3, I'd consider going Gakpo for 2 and then back. But I think ultimately, I don't think Maresca will give you bad news tomorrow. I don't know anything, by the way. Zem says, why does everyone pronounce Xavi Simons as if there's 2 M's in his name? Xavi Simons. I can't speak for people, mate. Pushkar says, got to upgrade Fulkrug this week. Not sure to which mid-level forward. Suddenly different question marks on Wood, Zhao, Mateta. Any preference, James? Yeah, from that lot, timing-wise, Mateta. But consider Muniz. Really consider Muniz. Heather's saying hello to Serge. Someone loves him. G. Lee says, hi James, need 2 free hit punts in midfield with 13 million. Thinking about Bob, Newcastle, Everton mids. What are your picks? Thanks. I don't think we kind of covered similar questions, so I don't think there's anything I can probably add into that. Other than Bob, I would say no. What's the impact of Savinho? Mind you, I mean, it's free here, isn't it? Savinho's not going to start this Sunday. I would think, again, I said earlier, I think I'll do a draft on the weekend or tomorrow. I think Harvey Barnes will be in it. I think Reinders would be the City one. I don't think there'll be an Everton player in it. FPL Torque Mac 2 says Tielemans, Mateta, Salah versus Bruno, Palmer, Ekiteke. I need Salah for game week 4, game week 5, game week 8 captain. Right, okay. What about game week 6 and 7? And you kind of answered your own question, you mate. If you're saying you've used the word need. You haven't said want, you said need. That means have to have. You're saying you need Salah for 4, 5, 8. How can I give you any answer other than the Salah route? Joshua says, with Perry Verbruggen rotation, would you risk it or move to Raya? So I've got that pairing. There is some speculation we think that Lucas Perry is injured, so has been going around kind of in the Leeds ITK underground. We think that's probably going to be confirmed over the next 24 hours or so. My intention on that is, okay, fine, one's injured, just going to have to play Verbruggen. Don't really want to be pissing about with that, frankly. So just carry on. Jerry Darmy says, is playing Wood at Arsenal over Sarr a bad idea with how solid Arsenal's defence is? I only have 1 free transfer. Are you asking about Ismaila Sarr, Jerry? I don't think it's going to be available, mate. Do you mean Pat Mata Sarr? Still be playing Wood. Talisman forward. Yeah, the only caveat to that is does he definitely start, considering the travel, right? Obviously played for New Zealand against Australia in Oceania, right? When did he get back? I don't know. If he's back today, I think he'll play. Matthew North says, I have no Arsenal or Haaland. Triple captain Salah now on wildcard 6. Or get to Haaland with free transfer in 6 for triple and bring in Arsenal game week 7 and 8. I have no Arsenal or Haaland either. Cool. That's it. I don't think I'll be going to Haaland for 6 either. I'm not going to rule it out, my option will still be open to get him in with 2 threes in game week 6, I think. But I think I'm more likely to overlook it. Pushkar says, your broad take on DEFCONs after a month. Should it start affecting our structure? For example, centre-backs over full-backs or more defenders on our 11? Do you like DEFCONs in the game? It's fine. Like, I'm not one of these who's like, I want this, that and the other for the game. That's what I decided to do. So we enjoy the game. We keep playing it. It's circumstantial. I don't think there's always pick centre-backs over full-backs. If you were sitting there with Munoz and Richards in your team, would you consider ever leaving Munoz out? No. So it's circumstantial, right? By team. I think our learnings will develop, that we'll understand with better clarity who the DEFCONs are likely to arrive against, rather than necessarily thinking about the team that those players play for. I think that will be the development where we begin to look at fixtures and go, right, they're playing X this weekend. These guys are more likely to hit DEFCONs. That's where I think the development will come in, and rotations will begin to look maybe even a little bit more at opponent rather than who teams play for. And I realise when you're looking at rotations, you're looking at a fixture in terms of our clean sheet probability, but it might add in the layer of DEFCON to that as well. Because the ideal scenario here is, right, that you play against a team who has problems scoring goals but likes to put a lot of crosses into the box. That's the gold measure. 3 weeks is not enough data. Try Rodder says, hi James, captain Haaland this week. I have no Mo, so who else, right? I have João Pedro, Watkins, Semenyo, Sarr, Gakpo, Reinders. So I've got a number of them, and it's probably going to be Gakpo for me. I certainly wouldn't captain any of them over Haaland, so Salah, Haaland, top 2 this week. Jack and Whistle says, thoughts on Muniz on 3 hit 4s, so I can also fit Haaland in. I just want to say congratulations, Jack. Almost Seko says, good day, sir. Thoughts on bench boost 6. Now we have the fixtures. Porro, Reina, Nori, possibly Xavi, my main concerns. So this sounds circumstantial, mate. I don't know how I can give you my analysis on if a game week 6 bench boost is good when I can't see the rest of your team. Because I'd look at things like Newcastle playing Arsenal, Brighton playing at Chelsea, Burnley playing at City, Palace playing Liverpool. I don't know if you've got players from these teams. Like, how good does it look? Right, if you're missing all that, Fulham at Villa, another one. If you're missing all that, then it's probably going to look quite good. So, depends what you've got, mate. In terms of like Porro, 8 Nori, Simmons, yeah, probably will be fine. City's schedule means I don't think that there shouldn't be big rotation in 6, which adds to the appeal of Haaland triple captaincy, I think, in that week. And in terms of Tottenham, it's Carabao Cup the midweek before, and then we play Bodo on the Tuesday. So there's no reason to think Porro wouldn't play against Wolves. Trash Bandicoot says, hi James, what are your thoughts on rolling out the 5-3-2 on 3 hit Salah and Haaland in? Thanks. Fine, if that's the way you want to play it, right? Hashtag, you know what it is. It wouldn't be for me personally. I had a joke with a few of our advanced tier patrons on a Zoom call earlier this week that all these teams have got great defensive fixtures this week. Arsenal, Palace, Liverpool, Newcastle, Fulham, that they all win 2-1. That's the joke. I wouldn't be surprised, mate. Wouldn't be surprised at all. So it's not for me personally, but if you like it, I'm not going to tell you no. Clearly there are a number of very, very good viable defensive assets this week, so if you fancy it, you go for it, mate. David Fawn says, hi James, hope you're well. Who do you reckon starts an attack for Newcastle this week? on free hit. A bit nervous about Barnes. That's the one I'd have the most confidence in. Barnes would have trained with the team for the last couple of weeks. Obviously not been on international duty or anything. Would be very comfortable with Harvey Barnes as a choice for free hitters. Rahul Patel says, hi James, would you play Williams this week or get a user transfer to get Richards? Again, similar to what I've said on previous questions about Forest. Almost says, if Strand Larsen remains a doubt, thoughts on replacing Dorgu from -4 to bench Murillo. Considering the rest of my bench may not play and I'm starting Strand Larsen, would also help with potential bench boost 6, 7 time. Okay. What do we think Murillo scores this weekend? What's par here? Okay. Forest away to Arsenal. 2-0? Is that kind of like a par prediction, maybe? 2-0? Do we think that Murillo would be capable of hitting DEFCONs under that circumstance? Yeah. 3-pointer. You take a -4 to remove him. You need your guy coming in to hit 7 just to break even. You don't like hits for defenders under these circumstances. Simply Sesh says, hi James, what would you do with Palmer? Sell for Semenyo or just hold? It's purely completely dependent on what Maresca says, mate. We are 1 minute to 1 o'clock, so I'm going to cover off 3 more that I can see on the screen. Benny says, who are your surprise DEFCON packages? Paquetá for me, Grealish as well. I think the surprising one so far, actually the biggest one for me is actually Bournemouth players. Is the biggest surprise for me so far. In the sense like Senesi and Ekitiké both hitting it at home to Wolves, despite Wolves having 10 men for a lot of the game. That's like really intriguing bit of information. So in terms of actual surprise, I wouldn't say there's been that many. The other one that I think is a big surprise, but it might be fixture led, is Liverpool. Now it's only really Van Dijk that's been hitting it. But if you look at the number of clearances this season, Liverpool are right up there, massive. Liverpool and Bournemouth are the 2 highest by a distance for team clearances this season. And I think that's a surprise. Now, again, with Liverpool, 3 tough fixtures. Okay. Let's see how that looks after they've played Burnley. And then Everton at home, they'll obviously have a lot of the ball. Let's see how that looks after that. So I'd say, yes, Liverpool, Bournemouth are the 2 biggest surprises so far, but it's also a fixture-led argument to that. Jacob Besant says, love the content, James. What do you think of Pat Matasar's minutes with Spurs additions late in the window? As kind of screams prior to game week 1, Spurs were obviously going to do more business in the window, and none of them would be particularly secure moving into beyond this, except for Kudus. I think that Sarr might start at West Ham, but I think he might start in a deeper role. I think there's a chance that Bentancur had strong minutes for Uruguay. I think there's a chance they might give that a nod and possibly rest him this weekend, considering we've got Champions League on Tuesday. But as per Monday's podcast, which I can't recommend enough in terms of anybody, we covered every single club and player basically on Monday's podcast. I don't think he'll be in Thomas Frank's best 11, but will still be strong for minutes because of injuries, rotation, etc., etc. But I think there was a giveaway yesterday with Simmons' position that will definitely have an impact on Sarr. Sarr will need to get one of Bentancur or Paulinho out of the team to play regularly under that circumstance. Final one goes to Kachinga Salum, says Kolo Muani looked. He was off the left in that Simmons video. Correct again. And as per discussions with Ricky and also Monday's podcast, that's where I think that it will probably get used most often. Ricky thought it might be more through the middle. That will probably be quite dependent on the fitness of Richarlison and Solanke. That's all for the stream. Thanks to anyone who submitted questions I've not got to. Apologies. Feel free to tag me at Planet FPL Pod on Twitter or Blue Sky, and we'll happily answer your question later in the day. For those watching live or on repeat, please smash a like. It's a free stream. It would be truly appreciated. If you want to give me some money, feel free to support the show at www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. A couple of bits of content coming out later today. Talking Tactics, it says, for advanced tier patrons, having a look at England and some really good tactical stuff from Tuesday night against Serbia. And Being Dad, which is a discussion on my last year of being a father for my boy. That's available to all patrons. That includes free patrons. You can even sign up for free if you want to have a listen to that. That's going to be about an hour. That's going to be out for you in a couple of hours as well. As I said, David will be with me on the Weekender tomorrow. That's a public facing content. We'll discuss England a bit more. We'll discuss Nottingham Forest. We'll have a look at some wildcard and free hit drafts for game week 4 as well. Which leaves me to say thanks everybody who's contributed to the stream, and for those listening to the audio cue music, please man shout.